And welcome back to the Gymnaso podcast. I'm your solo host this time, Michael Hughes. And this is a fun podcast I get to do because I've essentially shared this information several times, but never to the podcast audience, only to those people who have decided to come see me live in person on a stage at either Ideal World or a Mania conference or some sort of kind of fitness conference. And the education or the presentation that I share was like, I think the podcast should really hear this because I think it's a really cool message. And the message that I'm going to be sharing with you is essentially kind of like our best practices, what we feel our coaches have been able to do, and therefore that ability has given us the end result of the business that we have, the community that we have, the clientele that we have the privilege and honor to work with. So my goal for you to hear this is essentially to know how much untapped potential we believe the industry has, or you have as a movement professional. Hopefully something to be inspired by. We certainly have been followed or have been inspired by several people, and we believe we're standing on their shoulders. Perhaps you want to stand on our shoulders. It's your call. And then the last thing is probably the most important thing is a way for you to see a best practice about having a sustainable and fulfilling career within this industry. So that's kind of what Gymnaso aims to do for the rest of our career, is to show it and then to teach it, and to teach it and to show it, and just to continue to put out as much of what we've done. And what we've done is something that we've always wanted to be saying, we're living and doing the life that we enjoy, and hopefully others will see that and want to do the same thing. So just best practices, just trying to share it out there. So here's the 7 things that we have built up, the skills that we've built up as a movement coach, right? Now, these are not business practices. These aren't financial advice. That's a kind of a different topic. But the skills that we believe our team has, that we feel if the industry had, if the personal training industry, that those who want to level up and kind of perform and provide a higher value service to customers, if they had these 7 skills, we think we'd be off to the races. Just be having a great time. And having a good operational system, right? Having a business and a company has a lot to it, right? This is just kind of the operational system that we feel we've done a good job in. And again, hopefully you can steal, share, grab, take any of these points and just go for it and just become a lifelong master student, as we like to say. So here they are, just to kind of kick this thing off. 1, be able to conduct a functional movement assessment. Like, you have to do that. That's one of the things that we do at Gymnaso. We hold those things. Like, if you want to be part of this team, that's what you got to do. You have to be able to problem solve for musculoskeletal dysfunctions. I'll dive into all of these topics deeper. In fact, that number 2 right there is an entirely different podcast. 3rd thing is effectively motivate and communicate to any type of client. Number 4, deliver incredible customer service and deliver 5-star experiences. 5, program sustainable workouts driven by vitality. CJ and I just did a podcast on that previously. If you are on our podcast, just look 1 episode back. 6, masterfully tweak exercises to make them harder, easier, remove discomfort and pain. And then the final one is not an easy one, but probably the hardest, but what makes this whole thing wrapped up is continually seek out and learn new methods and strategies to incorporate. Basically, never be satisfied with what you know. And I have a lot of great mentors who are just in my mind right now, just like constantly saying to me, challenge what you know. Always be asking questions that basically make you think, do I know what I'm talking about? And that's not to essentially make yourself feel incompetent or not qualified for what you're doing, but it makes you always ask questions. And when you always ask questions, and I'm kind of finishing the podcast here in the beginning here, but when you always ask questions, You're therefore having to rethink and reanalyze what you do. And there's two outcomes that come from that. One, you're correct. You've thought about it and you're correct. So keep doing it. The other outcome is you're off or completely wrong, right? Either case, there's more to be added. And if you're off or wrong, then just make a correction. No big deal, right? No big deal. Just make a correction and keep marching forward. All right, that's what I'm going to be talking about. Hopefully this doesn't take 4 hours. My talks usually go about 75 minutes, so we'll try to go faster than that. So the first thing is conducting a movement assessment. Now, this is something that I wish I did in the beginning of my career. I didn't do. I'll be honest with you. I've been in this fitness industry now for 20 years, and I'm turning 40 this year, which is kind of a crazy thing to consider that for half of my existence on this planet, I've been a fitness professional. Half my life. That's crazy. And like those half of that life has been like picking my nose and playing in parks and, not going to school. I mean, just, like really more than like my entire adult life has been this job. And I would have to say for not even half of that, I was doing a movement assessment, meaning I was just showing up with programming for my clientele without ever kind of showing them the menu. And what I mean by that is like you go into a restaurant and just the chef just gives you some food. There's certain restaurant experiences that do that and they're very high class, but there's always a little bit of knowledge beforehand, right? Typically. So we have to know what our client is bringing us before we bring them our product. Now, what I'm talking about here is a movement assessment, not a performance assessment. I've been doing those since day one. We always do those. It's kind of called the first workout at the very least. What can you do? And how many can you do it for? And how long can you do it for? And it's essentially a performance assessment. But this supersedes that. This is the movement patterns that are required to even do a performance assessment. And this is what we want to find out. This is what, again, our benchmark is at Gymnasio, and I hope you can glean something from this. That is the whole point of these 7 points. Is we want to know what our clients can do, not what they can't do. Very important. And I wish I had this thought process since day one, because typically we just kind of program, oh, you can't do that. Okay, rewrite. Oh, you can't do that. Rewrite. You can't do that. Dang it, rewrite. And what if we started our programming off saying, I know what you can do. I know what you can. Cool. Perfect. Boom. First program ever written. We know that you're going to be at least 90% successful, if not 100% successful, depending on how detailed that we get. What a cool way to start a fitness program with your trainer as you're a client, intimidated by this gym culture and wanting better success in lifestyle, and you don't want to throw up the first time, or you don't want to injure your hamstring, whatever the case is, right? If we could start with that, then that would be amazing. So a proper assessment should do that one thing. At least in our standards, it should always point us for what we can do, and that's essentially the needs of the client. And then the next thing that clients always want is wants, right? I said it, what the client wants, and those are typically their goals, what they present to you. So if we can really start and kind of go hard on the paint in terms of we know what their movement capability is, we've already programmed for it, we already know that they can do rotational motions to the right, but not necessarily to the left because the lower back doesn't like it, and we can fit in with those wants. What a great first experience that most customers will have, if not all of them. And guess what? They will want to probably come back. And isn't that what all businesses want, for the most part, is a satisfied customer, a repeat customer, someone who says, gosh, I'm really glad I got that service. I find value in what you've given me. That's essentially the plight of any business. And in fitness, it's more than just a good workout, right? We know that physical feeling of working out, whatever that is, right? We can go from Pilates all the way to just a breathing class, right? Still working out the body, and all the way to a hardcore workout is giving this sense that I am doing something for myself, the client saying this to themselves, and I'm being successful at it. And I know this has a deeper understanding to the rest of my biology and the rest of my behavioral and even to your soul. That is what we're here to do. And we know as trainers we have access to that. We might not necessarily know the details of it, but we know physical touches the rest of our mental and soulful selves. So let's start with success, right? So what makes a good movement assessment? Well, we certainly use one of them, but essentially it's versatile, right? It has proprioception and multi-directional movement patterns involved in it. It tests the body's mobility and stability. It tests global functional movements. What does that mean? Well, there's a lot to this. But also, this is the most important thing. If you're going to say all those first four, it must have a system to interpret and collect that data and turn it into a progressive program that will be replicated over and over again. There's a lot of movement assessments out there that really collect good information, but what do you do about it? Right? It has to relate to a program in terms of functional characteristics of authentic patterns that they want and need. I'm just going to let the cat out of the bag here. Hope you haven't been waiting for too much of this intense, what do you do? Well, we use 3D maps by the Gray Institute. Super shout out to the Gray Institute. There aren't that many movement assessments, legitimately, put into a nice box and package with a bow on top that you can get certified in on the market. And I've looked at all of them. And the most popular one is FMS. And I've been to FMS conferences and I've talked to the founders and, they're smart dudes. They've been doing it for a long time. We even wrote a few books on it. But I like 3D maps better. I'm just going to flat out say it. Just my opinion, what our team uses, we found this is better because of its, a few things. But because the most thing is that the movements directly move and transfer into a program that is very authentic to the human movement patterns that they actually do in real life. And I'm not here to poke holes. This is not my job, but I'm just going to use an example of a relative, movement that FMS uses as an example, right? And getting on kind of all fours and lifting one leg out, pointing it behind you, and one leg putting it in front of you. I know what it tests. I do. I know what it tests. And it's not a bad test, but is that how human movement works? In most adult, in most non-children who are not crawling? And the answer is no. Well, you can argue, but you can really extrapolate a lot of patterns from that pattern. Correct. No questions asked. But does the average trainer know how to do that? And that to me, that's where the holes start coming in and why we really love 3D maps. So I'll stay there. I can go deeper, but that's where we're going to stand. This is, again, our best practices. So take what you want and leave what you like. Second thing is, and this is going to be a quick topic, be a little shorter on this one because this is an entirely different speech. It's an entirely different podcast, and it's kind of what we believe is the next holy grail. Probably use that word too, that overly use that phrase, but it's essentially the next big opportunity in the fitness movement industry, and this is solving for musculoskeletal disorders. What is an MSD or musculoskeletal disorder? It's a strain, a sprain, a muscle pull, back pain, knee pain, plantar fasciitis, right? All those things that our clients have, all of them have something like this, right? Even a movement dysfunction, relatively speaking, or an asymmetry in their pattern, right? Welcome to the club. We all have them, including myself and you listening. We all have them. So our body is essentially saying, you keep moving me at an increased intensity and something is going to happen. I'm going to reach my theoretical, actually functional limitation of that joint at that intensity on that load in that movement pattern, and I'm going to have a bad outcome. It's just going to happen. So if that is going to happen, if the vehicle that we're driving will need maintenance, therefore we have to be a good mechanic. That's just how we look at it at Gymnazo. So us being performance coaches, essentially a strength coach. Now, strength coach can have a collegiate term or a high school term. We're just meaning it towards life in general. We better know how to fix things. We better know therapeutics. And there's this kind of cool graphic that this doesn't lean towards podcasts, but I want you to think about this scale. right? So if you're driving a car, do not close your eyes. But if you're not, just maybe close your eyes and picture this. There's this there's this -7 kind of down on a low scale and a +7 on an upper scale, right? And there's 0 right in the sense. So just put competitive sports and athletes, elite athletes, professional athletes on the +7, right? They move for a living. They're incredible movers. And on the -7, just as like medically unstable, like your life is hard. Really, it's hard. There's health conditions that are putting you close to death, basically, right? That's just kind of the scale of movement capacity. Well, when I first started training, right? Well, let me go neutral. And neutral is essentially like you're just functional movement. You can move through life in a very competent way. And that's about it. Yeah, you're just moving. So most training and conditioning that I've been led to for the first part of my career was like, I want to train clients who are like, they don't need much motivation. They have a good understanding of their movement patterns already, and they want to push because that's what I can program for, right? That's what I can program for. That's what my CPT, my certification of personal training, gave me the ability to train for, flat out. And most clients aren't there. Interesting. Most clients don't need that. Most clients who are at that level don't really appreciate training and conditioning paid for by a professional. And bummer, that's like the smallest sector of the market who actually hires trainers, personal trainers. Again, my opinion, our opinion at Gymnazo, and what we have therefore based our business on is, what about that kind of negative zone, right? So in our chart, kind of -6 is post-surgery, -5 is kind of trauma healing in a sense. You're in a cast, you're in a boot. -4 is kind of like physical therapy rehab. -3 is participation restrictions, meaning like, hey, grandpa, let's go on a hike. And they're like, nope. Not going to do that. That's a participation restriction. Functional limitations is like, hey, let's go on a hike, but let's go up that hike. They're like, oh, I can go on a hike, but not that hike. There's limiting factors to their participation. In this neutral zone is functional impairments. Again, asymmetries that may have a little bit of sting to them, right? So that's the sector, the -3, 4, not to step on toes of physical therapists here, but the -3, 4, that zone, all the way up to like +1 is this opportunity zone that it's not a secret anymore. The industry knows this is the gap that trainers have the absolute ability, more so than any other sick or healthcare practitioner, in my understanding of the system, can go after. Because all the licensed practitioners are in that kind of -4, -5 zone. Now, some chiropractics play in that 3-2, but we're talking about movement practitioners, and I don't want to take a chiropractor out of that or a massage therapist out of that, but in their services, you're typically prone or supine, right? There's not a lot of movement in there. Now, do they help movement? 100%. They're all about movement, but they don't train in movement spaces for the general understanding of when they serve their clients. Again, I'm not trying to pigeonhole anybody. I'm just trying to be clear. We are movement practitioners. We train in movement, for movement, by movement's sake. So who's servicing those clienteles? And those clienteles not only know that they can't do it, they feel it. It's part of their life. So we have this mantra, and this is maybe this is the value of this podcast right here, but we'll see. If bad movement got someone into pain, then good movement will get them out of pain. Now, I'm using this word pain liberally. It could be a slight little knick-knack, a little bit of funk, all the way to like it hurts. So I'm just kind of using that broad sense of movement pain. So a bad movement got him there. Good movement should get him out there, right? A downward spiral is stopped by a spiral direction in the opposite way. So let's really get that takeaway, is that we have to become an essential part of the healthcare system. Then if we want to do that, right, then we need to get to the root cause of people's movement pain. And everyone wants to move well. It's kind of one of those like inherent human feelings. And last time I checked, every human, there's the 99.999% of humans move. That's what they do. And when you remove that, their life is significantly disturbed. Significantly disturbed if you take away movement. So who is the most willing customer for the trainer to want to excel their movement capacity? Well, it's that -4 plus. Those people in a hospital bed or have a boot on, right? That's not for us. Could we? Possibly. But again, we're looking for that segment. And who's the most motivated to pay for that segment? So we have to solve for those. Long way of saying we got to be smart enough to figure that out. And at Gymnazo, I'm so proud of us. And this is sounds egotistical for me to say that. And it doesn't mean that way, but we're that smart. And this is a guy who didn't get into physical therapy school 8 times. This is a guy who doesn't like traditional learning and didn't think he was that smart of a person in terms of school, scholastic tests, SATs. But I know how smart I am because I do it every day. And people tell me, how did you do that? And I'm like, let me just tell you this formulaic process of how physics works. And I don't share that, right? But it's like, that's my thought process. And it took me a different educational way to figure it out. It took me a very understanding of essentially how to think and not what to think. And I love my kinesiology background, my professors. I really had a good relationship with them. They didn't think I was the sharpest tool in the shed, but I thought I had a good time. They told me what to think in a sense, and that's nothing personal. They told me what to think, how to do these stretches, how to do these drills, what this machine was used for, how to engage the quadricep, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't have my knowledge rooted in undeniable principles of movement, and I didn't have the ability to adapt a physical therapy mindset, even though I'm a relative performance coach, right? Trainers are typically to perform better, to push further, but we don't know how to fix what's broken or gets broken when we try to continue to advance movement capacity on our clients. So that's that topic. If that intrigues you any bit more, it certainly intrigues me, and I'm pausing myself to not dive deeper on that topic because, well, like I said, it's an entirely different podcast that has a lot more to it. A lot more to it. So we're moving to number 3, if you're okay. Okay, cool. The third one, this is super fun, and I didn't realize how important it was. If you're a trainer, this number 3 kind of just naturally happens, because you're in the job of personal training or training and conditioning of any sort. And this is number 3. Again, effectively motivate and communicate with any type of client. Now, I'm going to kind of describe this to you. I want you to think about the golden rule. Now, I was raised by the golden rule. And this is treat people how you want to be treated. And it's a great thing. My parents told me that all the time, just take care of your brother, man. Don't let him beat up on you. Don't beat up on him. I have 4 brothers. I'm the middle of those 4. Excuse me 1 second, a little water. And it was all about, just treat people how you want to be treated. Do you want to get punched in the face? No, I don't. Then don't punch someone else in the face. Well, if we do that, then the personality type that you are, that I am, will therefore communicate the way that my personality communicates. The problem with that is my personality type is one of several different personality styles. My communication style, even the way you're listening to me right now. Some people are like, I'm turning it off. But some people are like, wow, this guy really thinks and speaks the way that I want to be spoken to. Cool, right? You're going to probably continue to listen to this whole thing. We try to aspire at Gymnazo to be different, and we use the platinum rule, which is essentially treat people how they want to be treated. So the golden rule, we call that a good coach, because you are, we are, they are. But a great coach coaches the athlete how the athlete wants to be coached and connects to that person. I really think about these amazing coaches in the traditional sports world that we all live in. How do they get all these A+ star, excellent players from all these different schools, colleges, and they come to this professional team? How do they get them all to work and jive together? because they were probably the best on their little league team and the best in their high school and the best in their college. And now they're, well, maybe not the best, but their ego is the best. They have to feel like that, right? Professional athlete has to always be pushing. I love watching the docu-series Drive to Survive. It's about a Formula One kind of, experience, right? These drivers, there's 20 of them in the entire world that have the ability to drive these cars, right? And if you don't like car racing, that's totally fine. But it says the opportunity, the percentages of people that get to do this is incredibly small. Hundreds of people play in the NFL. Only 20 can play in Formula One. You have to be, I don't want to use the word cutthroat, but you got to be diehard. Diehard. And the league is pretty diehard if you do watch that series. So how do you get people to work together to do these things? Well, a great coach can speak in different ways. They can essentially attach themselves to other personality types and speak to them the way that is. Now, Myers-Briggs kind of is I don't want to call it the gold standard, but is essentially a very well-known and accepted personality assessment type. And through this mother-daughter combo, they said, let's take all these different things and let's just boil down to 16 of them. And I'm not going to dive into the Myers-Briggs 16 different combinations, but we're just like, gosh, 16 is tough to memorize as a trainer, so let's boil it down to 4. Now, we didn't invent this program. Again, like we didn't invent much of what I'm talking about. We're simply just absorbing it, learning from it, and applying it in a fitness setting. And there's definitely 4 different personality types that we distinguish. Now, if you're a Gymnazo client, like in our San Luis Obispo facility, you may be kind of like, oh, interesting. Are they typing me? Yeah, we are. We are typing you, but we're doing it with the genuine heart and care that we feel that you would like to be spoken to. And we're not perfect at it, but we are trying to treat you how you want to be treated. And there's 4 of them. There's a decision maker, there's an encourager, there's a tracker, and there's a facilitator, okay? Those 4. Now, I want you to kind of think about maybe who you are. Now, this is what I want you to think about before I dive into the description of these. Here's a quick story. If I give you a pen and a piece of paper, and I say, please write your name with that pen on that piece of paper, what you will do subconsciously without a single instance of a thought, you will pick up that pen with your dominant hand and write your name. You will do it. You won't even consider the option. You'll just do it and pick it up with your dominant hand. However, can you write your name with your non-dominant hand? I bet you can. Is it as legible? Is it as fast? Is it as fun? No. But you can do it. This is how personality traits are used by us human beings. We can be another personality, but it's not as fast, not as fun, not as efficient, takes more energy, etc., etc. But we can do it. We just have to dig in a little bit more. So all of us are all of these 4 things. Again, 16 by Myers-Briggs. If you go to Enneagram, like there's another 9, right? There's plenty more out there. But just to keep it simple so we can really try to do the best we can and use as little energy doing it. That's efficiency, as we call it. So think about who you are. Now, a decision maker is a very type A type of person, relatively abrupt and relatively wants results now. None of those things are negative things, by the way. That's just the personality type. I know one of those people and is very, very much in my life. And I see her every day. And you may be filling in some gaps if you know my personal life. The second one is an encourager. This encourager is enthusiastic talker, very squirrel mentality. They're like all over the place. I can be that when I'm on the training floor. There's also a tracker, very detail-oriented, loves to read reviews. On Amazon, will not buy something unless they go to the review section at the very bottom. And they want to know the why behind their doing something. They're the client of yours that says, why are we doing that drill? How many reps do you want me to do? Where should I be feeling this? That type of client. Okay. I'm also that person too. Again, what are you most recognizing with? And the last one is the facilitator, who is more introverted, basically speaking, has a softer voice. just kind of doesn't get riled up, a loyal person, but can also quietly just get stuff done. They're not necessarily they're not kind of easy worker outers. They can grind, they can go for it, but they're going to do it in relative silence. Okay, hopefully you identified yourself as maybe one of those predominantly. Again, we're all a combination of those. I'll share you mine in a bit. And I want you to kind of think about different people. Let's use kind of Hollywood kind of actors in a sense, right? Actresses in a sense to kind of say this. And I love the show Ted Lasso, excuse me. So I'm going to use this as a basic thing. And I'm going to go kind of a few people who I follow and maybe some popular cultures, sitcoms in the past to try to give you a general idea. Let's start with Ted Lasso. Who do you think Rebecca Wilton is? That's the owner of the Greyhounds of the club. If you've watched that show, I'll just make it quick because you may have not watched that show. Who do you think she is? Is she abrupt? Is she easygoing? Is she very talkative? Does she just grind down on the details in a spreadsheet? Well, quick answer. She's a decision maker. She's very abrupt. She's very type A. Her way. We're moving forward. Let's go. All right, let's go back to the 90s. One of my favorite movies, Back to the Future. If you don't know Back to the Future, it's a trilogy. It's one of the best shows I ever had growing up. And Dr. Emmett Brown. Who do you think that dude was? He's a scientist. He figured out the flux capacitor. He figured out you got to travel 88 miles an hour and able to do time travel. He's all about the space-time continuum. Maybe think that he's a tracker. Maybe a thought. Okay, let's go to like a talk show host. What about Trevor Noah, right? Just I don't want to call him general, but he's a talk show host. He gets and stands in front of a crowd at a desk and interviews people all day long, just talks. Who do you think that would be? Probably an encourager. Thumbs up. Ring the bell. Love it. All right, what about this dude called Elon Musk? What do you think about him? Do you think he wants to kind of do things the way he wants to do things? Yep, let's go decision maker. Good. What about Coach Beard from Ted Lasso? What about Coach Beard? Soft-spoken? Maybe not. Does he know everything about everything kind of thing? Yeah, let's go tracker. Cool. And then we'll do last one, Ned Shirley. I think it's Shelley. Ned Shelley. Yeah, he's the kit man. He becomes the force to be reckoned with in season 2, season 3. In any case, right? Behind the scenes, quiet, brilliant, smart, effective, but kind of in the passing. Definitely a facilitator. Okay, cool. Hope that was a fun little journey for us all. Here's where you're going to get the bread and butter of this process here. How do you coach for these types of personality styles? So this is where you may want to pause, you might want to take some notes, but this is some good meat and potatoes for what we do and how we coach these different types of personalities. For the encourager, we will make it fun. We will partner them up with other people and we will challenge them with affirmations. This is how we verbally coach them. For facilitator, we will be very authentic in our phrases. We will try to challenge them in private. We will not yell it across the room. We will not say, "Way to go, Stephanie," as loud as we can from one side of the facility to the other. Not what you do. And we will be aware of their nonverbal cues and engage when necessary. They will probably not tell you when their knee hurts, but they will change their movement pattern, and you have to be aware of that. They're not trying to be difficult. They just don't want to mess up the flow. Again, I'm talking about the core trait of these particular people, the core trait. These trackers, you got to give them the whys and what they should be experiencing in their workout. When you're describing an exercise, give them the why. Like, why are we doing this drill? You should definitely give them some smart and witty banter. You can coach them and have a little bit of fun with your word choices a little bit, because again, they're kind of those intellectual thinkers that kind of can read between the lines and get a little more playful with their intellectual conversation and connecting the dots between inside jokes basically. And then definitely explain how this process gets to the goal that they want. Again, they are related to their goals and their trackable results. Decision maker, this was another important one because we don't want to miss coaching them, is we got to give them metrics as well. Not as much as a tracker, but kind of broader metrics. Challenge them in public. They will very welcomely take that challenge. And then give them competitions that push them. Now, an encourager wants to be partnered up because it's fun. A decision wants to partner up because it's a race. They will try to win. But watch out. If they try to win, they may overexert and therefore overpush a joint, a tissue, etc., etc. So be mindful about that one. They will win kind of at almost cost, at any cost. So again, that's a broad spectrum. I only went into the core traits of those people. No one is just an encourager. No one is just a decision maker. For myself, I'm actually a bit of a lot of things. I am on the coaching floor an encourager first. A facilitator tracker is a very, very kind of combo mix. And then I'm a decision maker last. I do not make quick decisions. I am not very abrupt. I'm just not those people. I'm just not that kind of person. I'm not that type of communicator. Off the floor, I'm kind of a facilitator first. An encourager second. I'm shy behind. Tracker and kind of those two kind of mix side to side. And again, decision maker last. And if you know me in any personal setting, you would probably, in any one of those two settings, you'd probably say that makes about sense. All right, let's move to number 4. We're kind of at the halfway point. Grab a little water, maybe reset yourself and kind of reset yourself in that chair. Because this is one of I think this is the most secret one, but it's plain as day. And that's really delivering an exceptional customer service and 5-star experience. I use the word 5-star as, not necessarily a rating system, but you're trying to give the best value from a non-direct product experience as possible. This is very, very clear in restaurants. And why I like to study restaurant industries is because of this very detailed fact. When you walk into a restaurant, you are not getting the direct product of the restaurant first. In fact, you don't get the direct product of the restaurant into the customer experience, meaning the ambiance of the room, the lighting, the smell. In fact, there's an amazing book on I always mess the name up. It's hospitality. It's a yellow book. I should have referenced before. It was undeniable, unequivocal. It's one of those things. It's basically awesome hospitality. Some of you are screaming in your car right now, Michael. This is the title. But it's basically everything they experience besides the food at a restaurant. And how do you take that into the gym setting? Well, to us, successful trainers are more focused on their client retention than their client acquisition, meaning they're more focused on making and helping their clients stay satisfied than getting new clients. I'll say that another way. They're more concerned about treating the clients they have well than going and figuring out sales and marketing tactics. Why do people stay at businesses? Why do people stay during services? Because of the experience they have in the product, with the product, around the product. They want to feel something. Now, I wish I was a master at this. I'm not. I'm just a student. But they want to feel something that makes them feel good. So in my experience, where Gymnazo had the best ability to grow in the beginning was cleanliness and organization of the facility. And I feel very strongly, if you ask any of our clients, the cleanliness and organization of our facility is pretty good. Pretty good. The second thing is the professional etiquette of a trainer. Now, this is something I experienced personally, growing up in a big box gym and having a lot of individual trainers there. Some trainers would walk up, shirt untucked, shirt tucked in. Some would have a beard, some would not have a beard. Some would have, eating a power bar, and some would not. Some would be kind of using the F word in their conversations. Some would be not. It's whoa, wait a minute. Who should we follow? It really contends about the small things, right? Now, small things that matter the most to that person in front of you. Now, when you walk into a restaurant, right? When you walk into any place, you walk into someone's home, right? The entryway is kind of like that first experience. When we thought about the small things, it really became the big things. Because when you walk into Gymnazo, we want you to instantly feel the opportunity of movement and possibilities. I have 2 little kids. When they go to a park, you could just tell they're like, what can I do here? There's so many options. Like they explore the possibilities of their potential in this environment. That's what Gymnazo was designed to do. And we're not talking about with a massive Equinox type of LA fitness budget here. We're talking about basically, I'm going to start a business and just get a basic loan kind of thing. But you can do a lot with color. You can do a lot with space and organization. And I'm not an interior designer, but for some reason, I like designing facilities. And I think from my experience, I have experience. So I want people to feel Gymnazo the moment they see it. I want people to walk into our locker rooms and just realize this is just it's nice without having to be super over the top. We're talking about flowers and plants and just some hair ties for women, like those small things, those things are for like providing shampoo and conditioner, like those kind of things. And just, like we have a plant wall in our facility. Why do we have a plant wall? Because plants bring happiness to people. I don't know. I think they do. There's certain things that just make it look nice. So this is where I kind of want you to kind of get this general sense. Clients want to feel safe. They feel heard. They want to feel cared for. And more people are going to remember and talk about. Remember and talk about. Share your business if it's a 5-star experience versus just an average. People talk about the end ranges of the experience spectrum. They talk about things that are excellent and they talk about things that are bad. They don't share the mundane. So if you're going to be excellent, be excellent. If you're going to be bad, then be real bad. Just pick one of the two. I know you want to be excellent. We are not perfect as a business. We've made our stumbles. We will continue to make our stumbles. But what I love about myself as a business owner is I love feedback. I love it from my team. I love it from my clients. Does it hurt at times? It does hurt at times. But what's the point of feedback? If the people care about you and they're constantly being customers of yours, it's to provide a growth opportunity. Now, that's what they are, opportunities, but you have to step into the opportunity. You can't just that person doesn't know what they're talking about. No, every person's feedback is valuable. Now, as a business owner, you can't take everyone's feedback. You have to kind of put it into a big conglomerate of decision making, and you have to have your own process of saying which feedback do I act on, which do I just collect and see if there's more, which ones do I actually ignore. I'm not saying I ignore any of my clients' feedback, but you kind of say that's a back burner thing. And that's the decision-making matrix that any business has to go offer. But if you strive for a 5-star experience, then your clients are going to want to help you get there. At least that's what I've experienced in the fitness industry. They want you to keep going. They love your services. They love that you help them feel something that they probably wouldn't do on their own. They don't want you to go out of business. If they tell you something, it's they want you to do better. That's a cool thing. So here's a few lists of suggestions that we thought of, that we used, and maybe one sticks out for you. First one is greet people by their name. That's a big one. Greet people by their name. If you do not have the vast majority of your clients' names memorized, that is your first goal. There's a great sitcom that is before my time, at least on active air show, that's called Cheers. But I did watch the entire series, and it was awesome. And there's the norm effect. And this was given to me by another mentor of mine. And I just want to say, Todd Wright, you told me this one. And if you're not sure you're listening, but if someone knows who Todd Wright is, this guy gave it to me. He has a lot of accolades that I'll spare from saying, but he's a great, great coach. It's the Cheers effect. You have to focus on saying their name the moment they come in through the door, or the moment you can say their name, and even when they leave. Even when they leave. That's the first one. And I challenge my entire staff to do it, and for the most part, they get on it. It's awesome. Now, even as a trainer in a solo practice spot, you have a lot of clients coming through, you may have to just interrupt the conversation. Just make sure someone hears their name coming through the door, because it feels good. And I've experienced this myself. There's this great resort that I go to during the summertime. I've been taking my family to for the past 6 years now, and the names of my kids are on cookies the moment I walk through our doors into our room. Now, someone didn't say their name, but the name's there. And it's like, what a small, little, awesome detail. My kids can't even read, but that's not what it's there for. It's there for their parents to read it. And it's like, oh, sneaky guys, We tell them it says their name on it, but they're like, that's, again, it's the small things that lead to big, big things. I want to dive into all these topics so much more. So thanks for hanging there with me if I go on a tangent. But the next thing I want you to do and think about is work on your coachmanship. That's what, I said these things to my staff. I'm not saying it to you. I'm saying it to my staff and to myself. Work on your coachmanship. No eating or drinking on the floor when you're training. No being on your phone. Not even the perception that you're on your phone. That's a tough one because we use a software to check in people, and it's on your phone. So we have to find a way to not think people are just texting or on social media. So it's like, that's a challenging one, especially if you use software to coach as you coach. No frequent swear words globally to a group of people. If you have a client who just loves to throw some trash talk in there, go for it. But make sure the client next to you or the coach along the way who's training another group of people, and make sure that conversation is private. Again, perception and people's feelings are very important in this industry, in all industries. And probably the next easiest one is start and end on time. If you say your session starts at 6 a.m., you start at 6 a.m. If someone comes late, they just came late. Welcome them in. That's all right. We failed at this. Excuse me. I was the only person who worked for Gymnazo when we failed at this. I would just start at 6:05, 6:10. Tim's late. We'll just hang and talk a little bit more. No, I am devaluing the rest of the experience for that one person. Not a good thing. Here's another few ones I'm going to say a little bit more rapidly, but I think are very important, something that we do. Hopefully one inspires you. We celebrate people's milestones. We have a shirt that once they reach 500 workouts, they get a shirt. 1,000, every 500 increments from there. We make it a big deal in our facility. And it is a big deal. And people have earned that shirt. And here's the most important thing. Make it, if you're going to do this, make it a comfortable shirt. Make it a relatively high quality shirt. I get shirts often, and it's kind of the basic tee. I don't wear it. It's not because I don't like the brand. It isn't comfortable. If you're going to give something away, make sure that it's something that's quality enough that they'll actually use it, especially a t-shirt. A tri-blend is a very generic, relatively mid-quality, but very comfortable, wearable shirt. So give a good quality shirt away. Put fake flowers in your bathrooms, those kind of things. Trees. We have a plant wall. Bring life into the space. Put hair products and feminine products for women in their locker rooms or their bathrooms, right? Those small things. I've never had super long hair, but I can't imagine trying to work out with long hair in my eyes and my ear, all around, sort of sweating in the back of my neck. Like, they want to tie that up. They want to make it, those types of things. If you want to go this next tier, it's a big tier, but provide a towel service. This is a big step tier, but one that we wanted to invest in. We actually collect kind of old shoes and shirts and t-shirts. So when someone forgets their shorts, they don't, like, here you go, we got a pair of shorts for you. We got a pair of shoes for you. Is it a Foot Locker selection? No, it's not. But we don't want someone to say, dang it. We want somebody to say, wow, that's cool. They can still say, no, I don't want to wear someone else's stuff. It's clean. It's not like, hey, we just found it in the lost and found, right? It's clean. It's good to go. But, it's just, again, the feeling that people want. And then hire a cleaning service or get a dialed-in cleaning process that you can do yourself depending on the size of your business. Have your floor clean. Remember, people lay on that floor, but people also sweat on that floor. A dust bunny can happen from time to time. Have a vacuum that's cleanable. Make sure that you can do quick cleanups because it's important that people feel like they're not, again, some people like the rugged and dirty, nasty. That's fine. But the majority of our clientele who want fitness, want something that feels quality. And then the kind of final one, I'll just wrap up this topic. Find a way to collect reviews, whether it be Listen 360, whether it be a software you use for your CRM, but find a way to collect reviews, because in the fitness game, right, you don't want to miss out on that 25% of the people who look at reviews before they make their final decision. And this is the last topic that I'll say, and then I'll move on to number 5 here, is that if you're, I'm kind of going back to the personality thing, but it kind of wraps up this whole picture of quality coachwomanship in a sense, is that if you're an encourager and you're running your business like an encourager, very exciting, fun, cool spot, right? Then you're really attracting 25% of the personality types who want that type of service. Remember, personal training is a highly communicative or highly kind of interpersonal way of doing things. So communication comes across in more than just words. It comes across in energy. So if you're going to do that, you're really servicing 25% of the population. You're probably going to get those clients who are just like you. And the other, 50%, right? They're going to be like, yeah, it's a good service, yeah, I like it. And then the next 25%, which equals now 100%, will say, not my bag of chips. No, I'm going to go find something else. So now you're automatically removing 25% of the population who want fitness, but they don't want your brand or your cup of tea of service. What we try to do at Gymnazo, and hopefully you feel inspired by, is like we want to serve all 100% of the potential. Not because we are one way, because we can communicate the way that they want to be communicated to, all of the clientele. Again, we're not perfect at it. We constantly try. But I think it's a great way of moving your business forward. And again, just my opinion, hope that resonates. Number 5, program sustainable workouts. This is the food of the restaurant, right? This is a big deal. If you went to a restaurant, right, and you wanted to go 3 to 5 times a week, but you were served food that gave you so much gas, so much intestinal bloating, so much joint aches because of inflammation, etc., would you be able to go back over and over and over again? Would your body allow it? Even if your body would allow it, would your mind finally say, I don't think this is working, guys? The recovery alone from this meal takes a lot of supplementation and a lot of distress in bowel movements. I'm kind of saying here, not to get too kind of graphic here, but like that's what I feel like the fitness industry is doing. And that sounds really negative. And I'm not talking to anyone in particular, because I'm essentially talking to myself in my beginning career. But what we've learned is that if we want to have a product that people do more times than not, right? Fitness is a daily dose type of product. Going to the restaurant is typically more like a monthly dose, right? In the average consumer, right? So if you're going to do a daily dose or relatively, bi-weekly, 3 times a week, it has to be a sustainable process. So this is what we mean by sustainability, not pushing to 100% for an entire workout. We do not say give it 100% all the time, every time. Now, most trainers don't, but we don't even say that. Like we say give it 100% for just this drill, but not for the workout. We also avoid trying to make clients sore. Now, if clients are listening, avoid, like I got really sore. We cannot prevent soreness, but we try to avoid making clients sore in the ways that we can control it. And I want you to think about this concept, right? If you're watching this podcast, you guys see a glass of water here, right? But if you're not, I want you to think about going drinking with your buddies. Just take yourself back when you just get a drink. Now, I'm not a big drinker. I'm a kind of a 2-beer guy. Not in college, I was not, but now I'm like a 2-beer guy. You give me 2 beers, I'm having a good night. I'm done. I'm good to go. Well, if you take that to fitness, right? Not drinking beers, but take it to fitness. If you haven't worked out in a long time, 10 push-ups will destroy your chest muscles. Some people, 10 push-ups are like, I'm sore for days. Now that's pretty deconditioned, but that's the truth of many brand new people to fitness. So we should probably understand how much we should serve our clients before they get obliterated. So we have to really understand that we're never going to know until after the workout's over. So you can't stop soreness from happening, but we have this general rule, and maybe you like this, maybe you want to take it with you. If someone's sore for 24 hours or less after a workout, okay, that was an okay workout. They definitely got pushed, but okay. We can move forward, no changes to our programming. If it's 48 hours afterwards, now I'm not using any medicine or journal medicine stuff here. This is just our philosophy. 48 hours more, okay, we probably overdid it a little bit, maybe some minor tweaks to the programming, but we'll continue as forward. If it's 72 hours or 3 days of soreness beyond, the programming needs to change. We have to adjust, make major adjustments because it's overdone. And that's our philosophy. Now, some people are saying, what are you talking about? Soreness is a sign of growth. In our philosophy, I would beg to differ that soreness is a sign of overdoneness. Too much. We overflowed the glass, if you have my glass of water in this video portion of the podcast. The water's overflowing. I cannot take any more. It's spillage. That's how we view soreness. A little bit of spillage is fine. But a lot? Inefficient training. Nothing personal, but just take the feedback from the body and say, we're in it for life. Most of our clients are here because they want to do it for life. Professional sports, by definition, is not sustainable programming. It's not sustainable fitness. The concept that they say, I'm going to play in pain. I'm going to do this game even though I'm in pain. That is for professional or very high competitive sports, not for fitness. And that's why we constantly are blending performance with restoration. Every workout has a blend of it in there. It's more performance than restoration in our workouts, but we have services that are the exact opposite of that. All in a performance warehouse, right? And warehouse meaning we're a fitness facility, but we do as much therapeutics per revenue, not necessarily, but very close as we do performance. That's our goal, to balance it out. Again, we're playing the sport of life. They don't have off seasons in this sport. There's no downtime. They go rest and hang out. We hope and trust that clients will take vacations and not show up for a week or two. Why? So their body can restore itself. Very important piece. We cannot look at a professional athlete training and be like, I'm going to train my clients like that. They are so good. Wow, that is so intense. Yes, for that unsustainable few years of their life, that more than likely, most of them will have aches and pains that are unchangeable for the rest of their lives, depending on the sport. We must not let the professional athletes and how they train dictate or over-inspire us to train our lifestyle athletes, our daily life athletes the same way. That's our philosophy. Hope that means something to somebody. So this is what a sustainable workout looks like. We have a variety of exercises in all three planes of motion. Why? Because we don't stress the same joint pattern and therefore the fibers that run along that ligament and tendon the same way. Think about a ponytail. Put a ponytail in your hands, right? I've never had a ponytail in my life, but I've held one, right, in a sense. And think about the parts between your fists. You don't see one fiber. You see, let's say thousands of fibers, right? And in those thousands of fibers, you essentially have this way of seeing it that this is what plays into your mind. If I bend the fibers if I bend the ponytail one way, the fibers on the long end of that curve stretch out more, and the hairs on the inside of the fibers on the inside shorten a little bit. Well, which one of those follicles or hair pieces is getting more stress? Well, the one that takes the longer path, the one that has tension underneath it. Well, if we do that same pattern over and over and over again, that bend, always the same direction, which hair follicles, which fibers are going to start to degrade and fray faster? Well, the ones that are under more tension, the ones that are in slack, they get a free ride. That's how tissue operates too. If we continue to do the same movement patterns, let's call it an overhead shoulder press, seated on a bench, we're focusing our attention on fibers, just a general term here, right? Connective tissue that's getting stretched in the same way over and over again, in isolation, by the way, with no help or support. Are you going to get a great muscle response? You better believe you are, 100%. But what else comes with that? A tendon, a ligament that says, I have less miles now on my ability to carry this shoulder forward. To me, that's just physics. It's not an arguable statement there. That's just the way it is. Now, I could be wrong on that one, but I don't think so. So we must move in various different movement patterns because we want to perform well, but we don't want to chew up the human body in the same time. This is why we rotate our car's tires, right? If you don't do that, you should do that, every few thousand miles. Why? Because the weight on the tires around the car is not equal. Some of the tires turn and take a bigger force of those turning angles. Some of those tires actually are put under a lot more torque, the rotational acceleration, so they get worn in a different way. So you want to keep your tires as long as possible because we know we will eventually need new tires on our cars. It's physics. It's not arguable. How do you make them last longer? You spread out the stresses. Interesting. That would be a good analogy for the shoulder, the lower back, the hip. That's how we think about our programming. Maybe that resonates with you. It certainly did with us, and that's a best practice. We also include warm-ups and cool-downs. It is not an option. It is part of our programming. Everyone does it. Now, those people who like to sneak out after those workouts are done, we're not going to gatekeep them and lock the door on them, but we certainly make a point to let them know gently, nicely, respectfully that they're missing the cool down. Our cool down isn't just breath work, it's actually active stretching, dynamic stretching, foam rolling, right? Is it perfect? Of course not. Is it long enough? Nope. It should be triple the amount of length, but the consumer still wants what the consumer wants. That's why we have dedicated group classes towards simply a 45-minute cool down. We call it melt, mold, move. Foam rolling, dynamic stretching, and light re-stabilization type movement patterns. It's a beautiful program. I absolutely love it. So we let them know that they're missing out. Or we make a comment, hey, please stretch out in your car. Hey, please stretch out when you're back at your office. Hey, stretch out at home. Right? We're just letting them know that their body is, the meal is incomplete. They're missing dessert. We let them know. That's as far as we go. In fact, the members will actually start to kind of get in on this, and they'll kind of start to lightly push athletes to stay, which is kind of cool. And then we have a well-balanced workout. We don't do muscle splits. It's not a one-size-fits-all type of program. We will individually tweak for any individual in any way that we possibly can. And it's a full body functional workout every single day. Why? Because it's a full body functional workout every single day in their sport of life. Here's a few things to kind of consider for those more in the heavily kind of programming, more detailed type of programming. Right? There's some physiological strategies that we use, and I just want you to be aware of them because I wasn't aware of them. And if it helped me, maybe it'll help you. Here's a bunch of them. Strength, power, endurance, speed, reaction, coordination, agility, fundamental movement patterns, mobility and stability in ranges of motions, and skills. You could design workouts simply on one of those words. The whole workout, just on power. But if you do that, you're really missing out on the other things, and maybe you're overdoing it, right? Now, are you going to put essentially power and skill together? Maybe not for a beginner, certainly for an advanced person, right? So you kind of have to understand that these are not all weighted equally. Just toss them in a blender and see what comes out. No, there's intention behind it. And if you want to listen to that programming podcast, again, that's the podcast previous to this with CJ and I unpacking this concept. So I'm going to go a little faster because you can get a whole podcast on this topic. So fundamental movement or positions, right? Supine, prone, sideline, seated, kneeling, standing, hanging, right? Global movement actions, lunge, squats, pulls, reaches, locomotion, vertimotion, right? Again, there's a whole podcast on this. If this really kind of lights you up, please listen to it. And then understand that movements can be simple and complex. And not to put too many simple ones together, not to put too many complex ones next to each other. It's just confusing. And then there's secondary considerations, right? The movement angulations, motion verticality, motion horizontal patterns, durations, rate, and then body areas, right? All these different things to kind of put in together. It's really the recipe list of programming. Again, whole podcast on it with CJ and myself. Number 6, this is where the art of your science starts to come together in the physics side of it, right? Not just in the communication side, is we have to be able to massively tweak exercises to make them harder, easier, and remove discomfort. The goal is to provide more value to your clients. Long gone are the days where the more elite, I don't like that word, but the more advanced trainer is simply just making an exercise to build physique, burn calories, and provide accountability. That's baseline. That's just our standard at Gymnazo. Hopefully that inspires you, not triggers you. That's baseline. That's what all trainers get trained to do out of their basic CPT. How to train muscles to look a certain way, move a certain way in a single plane of motion, and burn calories and be accountable, right? That's basic training. If you want to go higher than that, you have to blow your clients' minds and have solutions that are locked and loaded. What I mean by that, you have a box jump and someone says their knee hurts. You better be on the fly, making a decision immediately about what that person can do. Now, I'm not talking to you. I'm saying that to me. That's what I say to myself. I'm hard on myself on those expectations immediately. I must be ready to go. And if that one doesn't work, I better have a backup one. If that doesn't work, okay, then I can start to kind of analyze a little bit more and see what else I can do. But I'm going to keep trying until satisfaction is reached to that client. And the first thing I'm going to not do is change the action. If it's a squat, I'm not going to have them do a sit-up. If it's a sit-up, I'm not going to have them do a pull-up. Do not change the intention of your exercise. Again, I'm talking to myself and my team here. It's not to you, right? I want you to feel where you feel inspired on this one. That's our mantra to ourselves. It's very important because we don't want to make people feel, here's the word feeling again, benched. Now again, I've played right field in baseball. And if you know anything about baseball, in Little League, right, you know what the next position that's just before right field. It's the bench. If you get into right field, you know, I've been that kid. You know, I know, like, all right, they're putting me in the spot where the ball will go the least often because most hitters are right-handed and not left-handed. Right? The ball's going to go to me at the very smallest chance, and that's where they put me. So it's like we don't want to bench our clients. We want them to, again, most clients are right fielders, meaning they're just getting into the sport of fitness. They want to feel successful, so hit them a good ground ball. And if they can't field it, make a change immediately. That's really important, and we have to be ready for that. So understanding chain reaction biomechanics, thank you, Gray Institute, kinematics, those types of things is very important so you can start to solve for the workout, right? You're not fixing their movement pain. That's not the expectation in group training. It's to solve for their workout so they can continue to participate in a level that makes them feel like an athlete. It's a soapbox that I really feel proud about because I wasn't that trainer years ago. I wasn't that person. I just like, oh, we're not going to do that drill. Scratch. I felt good about it, but what did they feel? What did my clients feel about it? So it's adding that level of creativity that's beyond just making it harder, heavier, or faster. I didn't say that perfectly well, but I think you know what I'm saying here. We need to add the ability to individualize any program, even if it's a group training, workout of the day, WOD of the day. We should be able to, as a Gymnazo staff, to be able to say, what do you want? You're saying, Michael, isn't that just like personal training? Kind of, yeah. Are we going to go to the levels and depths? No, there's a certain level of cutoff where we're saying, this is good, but we're going to do it in real time. That's the level of value that we want to provide in a group training, $15, $20 per workout setting. So there's a few things that we can kind of observe here, right? That are typically beyond just the rate and duration. Rate, how fast, I said that wrong. Rate, and duration. What I mean by that is like how fast, how quickly, how long, how quickly, or how heavy. That's what I really want to say. So a few of the things to consider. We call them the observational essentials, tag or institute. Direction, driver, environment, and position. What do I mean by that in terms of tweaking or modifying? Well, if you change the direction, let's call it a forward lunge, a very novel, basic exercise in fitness, a forward lunge. Well, if they can't do a forward lunge, I bet they can try to do a lateral lunge. Why would that be different if there was knee, ankle, or hip pain or lower back pain? Because the stresses that are being put through the system at different kind of, not to get too wordy here, but like the angulation of movement patterns is changing, right? And so therefore, a lateral lunge is putting different weight and different angles of energy through the knee in different ways. And it's also stretching out and lengthening different muscles that connect to the lower back. So it's worth a shot. That's a way to think about direction change. A driver is thinking about what are the things that influence the movement. Well, for a lunge, what if you took both hands and spun your hands and reached your hands rather, right forward lunge, picture it in your mind as a way of doing it, and then take both hands and reach to your right. Well, when we do that, we load up the upper body and the posterior lateral hip in a way that supports that lunge. Do that same right foot forward lunge and take both hands and reach to the left or the opposite side of that leg. Well, now you're taking different core muscles, opposite core muscles, essentially to keep it simple, and more adductor medial thigh muscles to influence and support that lunge. Could that therefore change the feeling of hip, lower back, ankle pain, just to keep it simple, in a lunge? The answer is yes, absolutely. It definitely could. The environment, we can, maybe they're on a Bosu ball or on a wedge or on turf or on sand, right? Changing up how their foot interfaces with the surface can change the reaction of the drill into the body. So we always have wedges available, those wood slant boxes or those kind of things. They're always available so we can change the interface of how the tire makes contact, the tire being the shoe, the foot, to the ground. Think about height, again, doing a forward lunge. Use that same one over and over again, right? Because it's so basic. It's one of the primary movement patterns of the human body. What if I lunge forward and it hurts my lower body or just feels uncomfortable? I'm not very good at it, right? It doesn't have to be painful. I'm not very, very good at it. Well, what if I take a box, right? A typical plyo box, not something that's 2 feet tall, but a foot or so, and they do a lunge onto that box. They don't jump onto it, they just lunge onto it with a single leg. What happens to those segments of the body? It becomes easier. Not for all people, because there's always context dependent, but for the most part, at least for this example, you've now introduced flexion of the hip sooner, flexion of the knee sooner, and therefore you're loading those muscles. Think about a rubber band getting pulled back, the bow and the arrow getting pulled back more sooner. So there's more muscle tension, therefore less joint laxity. And that joint laxity typically gets a sensation of lack of balance, sloppiness, again, some sharp pain, whatever the case is. Now, again, I'm being general here because context is so important. That can actually be more painful for somebody. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. So next one is position. Think about how changing position. If someone comes in with a sprained ankle or just a funky little kind of plantar fasciitis thing, they can still do an anterior lunge. Just start from a kneeling position. You change the mechanics and when that ankle is engaged and when that ankle is not engaged, or avoiding the ankle altogether. Because now the ankle's not even in contact with the surface, especially the one that's not being lunged on, right? Now I'm saying you don't want to do a one-sided lunge for the whole workout, but you can just even do a static lunge and just drive the knee forward, but from a kneeling position. Stresses are different. The body weight is now lighter. You don't weigh as much when you're kneeling, in terms of, because you have less body parts in contact with the ground and therefore in motion. Again, a lot of fun on that one. Our MDMC mentorship really dives into tweaking and exercise modification, not for the sake of just like, oh, don't do a burpee, now do a push-up, right? No. Much more kinematic, much more physics-based tweaking. And I think that's the lost art. Not the lost art. That is the new art. That is the new value add of in real-time coaching movement coaching that I think the market will definitely appreciate in short time. Which leads me to number 7. Thanks for hanging around for this long. It is the most important thing, and it's one thing that you're already doing right now. If you're listening to these words right now out of my mouth, you are continually seeking out and learning new thoughts, methods, strategies to incorporate into your training. This is something that kind of, I don't know if I've coined this, it doesn't really matter, but at Gymnazo, the coaches that we want to be is this phrase. We want to become and be the specialists of specialties. Maybe a little bit more of an egotistical, fun way of looking at it. We want to be the Navy SEALs of trainers. You got it. You want us to jump out of an airplane? Gotcha. You want us to go do some underwater? We gotcha. You want us to do a little land base? We gotcha. You want to do a high detailed extract? We gotcha. Like, we want to know what there is to know and always be seeking more, because we're never satisfied, because there's more that we can do. There's more value that we can create with our clientele, and therefore have a more sustainable, profitable, which is very hard to do in this industry, business that supports our lifestyles, not just the owner of the business, but the professional practitioners of the business. That's the rarity in this game. So essentially what I share on stage, what I'll share to you now, it's kind of like a red pill, blue pill moment. If you've seen the movie Matrix, right? You have a decision to make. You've heard something. Now you have a decision to make. Like all educational, do you say thank you for saying it? You kept me occupied as I drive in my car, or whatever the case is, to eat my lunch, Or do you do something about it? And again, this is my only opportunity where I'm actually talking to you and asking you to do something. The rest of us is just sharing our experience and how we think. Maybe there's something that you can do about it. I had this experience in my life. I was in San Diego. It was November of 2009. I had a red pill, blue pill moment. Someone told me something, Gary Gray, Dave Tiberio, told me something that I couldn't ignore. And it challenged me to rise to that level. And I chose the red pill. It was time for me to move away from being a personal trainer and moving into being a movement specialist, a movement therapist, a specialist of specialties. The market doesn't know what to call us yet. We're calling it a kinesiologist. If you literally Google or find some search engine and say, what's the definition of a kinesiologist? That's what we are. That's what we do. And if you read that definition, it's a specialist. The word therapeutics is in there. The word strength is in there. In a sense, performance is in there. We do it all. Do we do it to the level of a chiropractor, physical therapist? Not even close. We don't do high velocity movement patterns on joints. Absolutely not. But we have an understanding of what that is and why it's done. We just choose to use foam rollers and exercise equipment and dynamic loading and a little hand-on guiding and some soft tissue, right? We use the tools that are available to us. And that's, I think, what this industry needs. So I hope that's inspired you. If you want to know more about how we think and would like to kind of study how we think and the methodologies that we use, we have this thing called the Multidimensional Movement Coaching Mentorship, MDMC for short. At this point, it's a 6-month transformative program that really helps build a sustainable career in fitness. That's the plug. It's short and sweet. I would love to talk to you. No pressure. Just talk to you about it. Because again, it's changed my life and my team's life. And our goal now is to change the lives of coaches around the world. And it's been fun to do it for the past 4 or so years. Maybe it's right for you. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Hopefully that wasn't too long. I enjoyed speaking about it. And now you don't have to come to a conference. Now you can listen to that talk over and over again. All right. Till the next time, cheers. I'll talk to you soon.